the price tag on a dead body is so much higher than the price tag on a busted up shin bone. We're the Armed Attorneys. Today we're talking about whether or not you should aim for the legs when defending yourself against an attacker. Stick around till the end for a pro tip on rendering aid to someone you've had to defend yourself against. And before we get started, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting the like button.
And to start off the conversation, we get this question a lot. It comes up in virtually every license class that I've participated in is, should I shoot someone in the legs? Or you see that in the comments section.
Shoot to wound or shoot to kill.
Yeah. You see that in the comment section of news stories, typically officer-involved shooting. And it raises this interesting issue of, should you shoot in the legs?
Right.
And I think the first thing we have to do is say, hey, is discharging a firearm at a person and striking them, is that going to be considered a use of deadly force?
Always.
Yeah.
Every single time.
And why is that?
So deadly force is anything capable of causing, or which does cause, serious bodily injury or death. So not only is shooting someone in the legs a deadly force, even though they don't die,
right.
Actually shooting at someone and missing them in most states is a use of deadly force as well, because should that bullet have hit them, right, it was capable of hitting them, and if it had, it would have caused serious bodily injury or death, right?
Yeah.
So that's deadly force. So it doesn't necessarily help you legally in terms of whether you're looking at force or deadly force to shoot at the legs. And then, of course, tactically.
Right. And we're not the tactics people, but like Emily mentioned, the law has used these buckets. We use that term a lot. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to group things together. Force, maybe there's an intermediate level of force, and then deadly force. And so as a practical matter and a legal matter, they're going to be completely separate. So tactically, is it a good idea to shoot someone in the legs? I don't know that we can have that discussion.
Yeah.
But
you always hear no.
Yes, center mass, stop the threat, and things that we've all learned in our defensive pistol courses. But
I'm at the range enough to, I hope, hit center mass should I need to.
Right.
I'm sure there are people who are really highly trained who can hit whatever they want under whatever circumstances they want. I know it's not me.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, this isn't going to be and maybe we have that discussion in the comments. Leave a comment. Tactically, what is the best thing to do? But from a legal perspective, it's going to be treated the same as if you shot the person in the face. Mm-hmm. So the law is not going to make that distinction.
Right. But here's the weird part, though, and this is the discussion that we were having before we started filming this, is even though the law doesn't make the distinction, even though tactically aiming for the legs is probably not a good idea, the only experience I've had in court with it is juries love it. They love it because once it happens, your attorneys have the opportunity to argue it to the jury. Like, hey, look, he did not want this guy to die. And he effectively, stopped the threat and still preserved life. And oh my gosh, like prosecutors are sympathetic to it. Juries love it. It's crazy, but it's just really hard to get, I can't recommend putting yourself in that situation because you might not preserve your life, to get there.
And then I think the legal practical matter there is maybe you're charged with an aggravated assault as opposed to a murder charge. And so, from that perspective, yes, that takes a big step back legally. But then I think there's arguments on the other side. I know Emily disagrees with me, but I almost equate it to a warning shot at that point because you have time to calculate, point it in a less than lethal direction, Maybe that undermines your immediacy argument a little bit.
Yeah, I think that it's less compelling, but I'll give it to you.
So, there's arguments obviously on both sides of this thing, but I think that brings us to our attorney pro tip of the day about whether you should render aid to a perpetrator. Let's say you've just saved your life. You shot your perpetrator in the legs. That stopped the threat. These are the assumptions we're working with. Should you render aid in that case? Yeah,
there's a lot to consider. So I guess we'll start with just hard and fast. Most people do not have a duty to render aid, right? So if you fall into that category, criminally, you shouldn't be charged for failing to render aid. Civilly, you may have a duty to mitigate your damages,
That's a good point.
But at that point, now we consider everything else that goes into it, like safety, like jury perception. Is there anything there you want to get into?
Yeah. And we were talking to our civil guy about this, and he said, mitigate damages, because as the civil attorney, the dollar sign at the end of the day, he wants to make that as small as possible.
Yes. He does not want that perpetrator to die because the price tag on a dead body is so much higher than the price tag on a busted up shin bone.
Right. And so, he has, it's a bunch of different competing interests here. But at the end of the day, you have to keep yourself safe. We have all these stats about, the number of perpetrators, average number of perpetrators involved in an assault. And so we know, hey, there could be additional attackers. Also, you don't know if this person's on drugs. Let's say, I don't know if you've seen those videos, but people on phencyclidine that have super strength and take an entire, fire truck full of people to hold somebody down. So, you don't know all these different factors going on. And like Emily said, maybe there likely isn't a duty to render aid.
So, I mean, the attorney pro tip advice here is you don't have to do it if you want to. I mean, that's really, I think where we're at.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's pros and cons, but we hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And please question and comment below. Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.